We will call to order the Victorville City Council meeting, the Victorville Redevelopment Agency meeting, the Victorville Water Board meeting, the Victorville, the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority meeting, the Southern California Logistics Rail Authority meeting, the library meeting. All of them will be opened concurrently. The custom and habit with this council is that we open our meetings first with an invocation, and tonight it will be given by Pastor Donald King of Harvest Time Ministries, and that'll be followed by a Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our Chief of Police, Captain Mark Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. We can all stand. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Your works are manifold in wisdom. You created them all, and the earth is full of your riches. We ask now that you would give the council members, Mayor Pro Tem, wisdom. We ask that you would provide that wisdom that our city may grow, that we may grow in peace. And Lord, we thank you for this opportunity right now. Father, bless this council. Father, bless those who are here. Father, Lord, just provide everything that is needed, and we'll give you the praise. In Jesus' name, everyone say amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Going to take a couple of things out of order. We have two presentations. The first one that will be given tonight will be given by Reggie Lamson and Sean McGlade. They'll identify the subject matter of their presentation. Next up in the batter's box after that will be Sergeant Matke from our Sheriff's Department, who has a presentation on traffic matters. Mr. McGlade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. At the request of Board Member Hunter, we were asked to bring an update of the reclaimed water plans that we have, what we've activated already, what we plan to do in the future. And so between Reggie Lamson and myself, we have got a little presentation for you this evening. Back in March of 2005, the city initiated its first major project and major step into the reuse of water. And this was a project, it was a $1.2 million project to lay pipeline for 3.5 miles from the Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Plant to bring reclaimed water to West Winds Golf Course. The golf course uses, on average over the year, about 300 acre-feet. And to put it into perspective, if you take all of the wells in the water district system, each well on average produces about 1 million gallons a day. And the usage on average on the golf course is about 250,000 gallons per day. So if that helps you to put the water usage into perspective that we're actually using out on the golf course, we were hoping that would help. Well, what are the advantages of using recycled water over potable water? It's all to do with the cost of getting that water, and the reclaimed water currently is at about $80 to $90 per acre foot. That's the purchase price and the cost to deliver it to the West Winds Golf Course. By comparison, if we were to use water from the aqueduct, that is going to cost us about $315 per acre foot. And to compare that then with the potable water pumped from the aquifer, that runs about $400 per acre foot. So I think it's fairly obvious the advantages of getting into the reclaimed water business. The only disadvantage to the kind of use that we have out at the golf course is that it is seasonal, so it's going to fluctuate. It's going to be have its peak in the summer, obviously, and then taper off to about a third of that use then in the wintertime. Back in September of 2001, there was a master plan put together for water, wastewater, reclaimed water, and drainage for SCLA, looking to the future and how it would expand. That was updated in June of 2006, because by that stage we've got the reclaimed water pipeline out to West Winds Golf Course to provide the backbone for the future plans for reclaimed water use on the development at SCLA. This exhibit shows the first phase of the SCLA. That's the Sterling and DCT partnership, and they are indicating with the purple lines there, those are the lines that they would install as part of the master plan as they would develop the road system. And so we want to make sure at the very least we've got dry purple pipe in the street for the future use to irrigate the landscaping that goes in with those and the general landscaping areas, especially along the major highways. The next slide is showing a further phase of development where there is a backbone system in place, developing throughout the phases of the development at SCLA. These would be all connecting all of these links into that backbone system to provide, again, when the storage system is in place, the ability to irrigate all of these green areas with reclaimed water. This slide then would be approaching the latter phases of the development, and if you notice right in the middle there, we're depicting where the storage tanks would be for the reclaimed water. These storage tanks, one is dedicated to a deluge system to provide the fire suppression for the major hangars out at the airport, and the ultimate plan was to serve those storage tanks with reclaimed water, and all of the plumbing that has been put in place for those hangars, and there's probably 6 to 7 of the wide-bodied hangars have purple pipe built into them to provide the fire suppression water. At this point, I'll turn it over to Reggie.
Thank you, Sean. In addition to the irrigational uses that the golf course will have and the green belts that will be constructed at SCLA, there's also some significant industrial uses that are going to occur out at SCLA. Industrial uses have the benefit of being a year-round use, where the irrigation, like Sean mentioned, peaks in the summer and then drops off dramatically during the winter months. I'll talk more about those major industrial uses. It's the power plants on another slide. But first I'd like to jump over to the southwest end of town, west of 395 and south of Highway 18. There's a proposed purple pipe system out in that area that, because there's some significant schools and parks that are planned out in that area. The purple pipe doesn't necessarily have to be recycled water. It could be also untreated state water project water from the aqueduct. It's non-potable, but it's still, we checked with the Department of Health Services, and it would be appropriate to use untreated state water project water to irrigate parks and schools. So we could construct a purple pipe system now that could use aqueduct water. We could construct, we have several sites along the aqueduct where we can construct a reservoir so that this system could be served by gravity. One good location would be right on White Road, where there is an existing turnout from Mojave Water Agency, and that purple pipe can serve all the proposed parks and schools. In the future, if a recycled water source was created, then that system could be either recycled water or untreated State Water Project water. Now we're going to go to our last slide. This is a graph. This first portion of the graph, this stair step, is the production capacity of the regional plant, BVWRA, their existing plant with some expansions, and then a future regional plant that's being proposed and studied just on the other side of the river, but still in generally the same location down at the north end of town. So that would be the capacity of the plant. This next curve is the projected growth of water flowing into the regional plant. What we did is RBF did a study and made a projection of how much water recycled water will be available out of the regional plant. But they had pretty optimistic projections because when they did their study, development was booming. Now that it's backed off a little bit, staff has kind of modified that curve, took it back about 75% of what RBF projected, because we have some current data of flows going to the plant, so we feel our curve might be a little more realistic. So that would be the available amount of recycled water would be that curve there. These green bars are what the obligation per the MOU with BVWRA and Fish and Game. That's the amount of water that we have to put back into the Mojave to maintain the ecosystem. It's a little over 8 million gallons a day currently, and it goes up 20% of the actual growth of the flow that's going into the plant. So that's why it's sloped much shallower than the other graph, because it's only 20% of growth. So that's what we have to put back into the Mojave River. What's left, the difference, is we can use for recycled water uses. These purple bars are what the irrigation demands are projected at SCLA. The first one at 2007 is the current use at the golf course, and then it goes up. They plan on expanding the golf course, so at around 2015, the expansion at the golf course may be complete. So instead of being 9 holes, it'll be 18 holes, and their water use will essentially double. And then also the curve goes up, the use goes up to irrigate the green belts. This next curve is potential use at the High Desert Power Project. Currently, they use all State Water Project water, and they treat it to a certain level and use it for cooling water. We have spoken with their plant operators, and once they get the proper permit amendments with the California Energy Commission, they can start using recycled water for cooling. But the recycled water out of the BVWRA will need additional treatment to get it to a standard that's suitable for cooling water. But they did say they could use 1,000 gallons a minute, or 1,000 acre-feet a year, rather, initially, and blend it on a 2-to-1 basis. So as soon as perhaps 2008, if the permitting is in place, they can start using 1,000 acre-feet a year. And then once we construct facilities to treat the water to a higher standard, then in approximately 2009, they can start using all recycled water, and that will take it up to 3,000 acre-feet a year, and that's what the blue lines depict. As you all know, the permitting process for Victorville 2 plant are well underway. It's projected that the permit will be in place by next April or so of 2008, and the plant will go under construction. It's estimated that it will use approximately 3,000 acre-feet, and that's what the orange bars depict. And as you can see, if that plant goes into operation around July of 2010, we'll actually be using slightly more than what's available based on our projection of the recycled water flows. And then by about 2012, we'll start getting surplus, but other industrial or irrigation demands will come into place. There's a number of possible industrial uses down on the northern end of town by the regional plant that probably can use up any surplus we have. Where in 2010, where it crosses the surplus, how we can make up that difference for irrigational uses, we may have to use potable water if there isn't sufficient recycled water, because we would certainly want to focus on using recycled water for industrial uses, such as cooling a power plant, because it's a more consistent year-round usage. So that's where we're at, if you have any questions.
Mr. Hunter, you're the Purple Pipe and Reclaimed Water guru, so we'll turn to you.
Okay, I do.
On at your request.
Thank you. I do have a few questions. So realistically, to have any recycled water available for use outside of what you've listed here, we're looking at 2014, 13, 14, before we can really start having anything that can go above and beyond what we're looking at here. So if we wanted to connect something west of the plant, we really have no usable water.
Right. The power plants will use a lion's share of the available water.
Okay.
Initially.
Should by 2013-14 our development starts to pick up again west of 395, what is your suggestion to be able to get recycled water west of 395?
My suggestion would be to probably continue to feed that Purple Pipe system with untreated State Water Project water. So it's still significantly cheaper than potable water. So it's a good use of the State Water Project water, and it would reduce our replacement obligation to the water master by using untreated State Water Project water in lieu of potable water. So it's still a very good use for Purple Pipe,
Right.
And it would save the community a significant amount of money.
Now,
Hunter, before you leave that, just let me add, although it's very fluid at this point, there have been recent indications that Tenaska, the owner of Power Plant Number 1, may have changed their thought process about the use of reclaimed water to cool the plant. So that increment of production might become available in terms of these graphs, or said another way, might not be used for that.
okay. Well, realistically, looking at the distance between our plant and west of 395 for development is a long ways, and probably not cost effective to run recycled Purple Pipe from that plant west of 395. Am I correct in that assumption that the cost would be prohibitive?
Yes, it would. The cost to run the pipe, and then in addition to that, to lift it from the north end of town all the way up to the south end of town, that's a significant lift, and there'd be significant pumping costs, and that would probably, I haven't done the study, but would probably, gut feel, would override the cost difference between recycled water and untreated State Water Project water.
What would the cost be to put a regional plant west of 395? And I know you can't give me exact figures, but would the cost be different? Would the cost be saving to do a regional plant as opposed to running that pipe?
I haven't done that study. I'll let Sean jump in here. He may have a little input.
Are we talking sub-regional or regional?
Sub-regional.
Sub-regional. Currently, the city's master plan for sewers is being studied by EarthTech, and that is one of their focused studies is going to be on the sub-regional, the use of sub-regional treatment. One of the problems with the sub-regional is that unless you have a, steady customer, you still have to manage, for example, the irrigation use.
Mm-hmm.
Manage those off-season flows. You still infrastructure large enough to convey that water that's not getting reused down to the regional plant. There are some disadvantages to that.
Okay. Well, I think looking forward, what's going to happen in the high desert is that while we're looking at recycled water for large complexes, we are going to sooner or later end up using recycled water in residences. I think that's going to happen. I know that John and I have talked, and I believe there's one developer that's looking at Barstow that's planning on putting that infrastructure in their development. And I think that's going to happen here, which would probably use a lot of that water. My question then is, if we were to build a sub-regional plant, would we still be looking at the $80 to $90 per acre foot, or would that increase because of the cost of the plant?
There's going to be a cost to recover the water, and then there's still going to be a cost to treat the effluent at the regional plant. So without having that analysis done yet, that's something that we can have EarthTech do. It's obviously not going to be
But it'll be a lot cheaper than $400 an acre foot. Okay. Getting to my bottom point, I guess, is this was a process for me to get out where we are at this point and how we're going to look forward to putting this recycled water into developments and businesses. And I think it's something we have to address right now because it's going to need to happen. And if we don't start it right now, we're not going to be ready when it needs to happen. And if we stay on the current trend we're at right now with rain and the lack of water, we're going to be in some deep hurt. So it's something we really have to hit real soon about figuring out what we're going to do about using recycled or reclaimed water or aqueduct water and get the process out there now. We really have to do it. And I foresee that everyone that's talking about it is this drought issue is going to continue for some time, and it's going to be drastic up here in the high desert. So,
Rothschild?
What month was that plan in 2010 coming on to? What month?
The Victorville 2?
Yeah.
I believe it's
Middle of the year,
projected
wasn't it?
July of 2010.
Yeah, so you can cut that orange bar in half, and we're still into the line, aren't we? Okay.
There you go.
Any other questions or comments from members of the council?
Just a comment, and I agree with the cost of pumping from that lip up to that head. That would be pretty cost prohibitive. And I think there were studies done several years ago. There's a master sewer plan that was done and indicated, showed the distribution system, but the outcome was that, of course, it's going to be maybe not prohibited in a sense, but it's certainly going to be real costly. You have to weigh your costs against like the regional and then pumping it. But we're looking at really industrial uses because those can maintain the steady demand. I think that would probably work a lot better than, and not disagreeing that we don't need it for the green, the greens too. But if you have a steady customer, then your cost is you can recover your cost other than going up and down with the seasonal use of using water on.
That's correct. That would be the favorite customer. The ideal customer is somebody that uses a steady flow in large amounts.
I know CEMEX is requesting a proposal, so we're going to be looking at that.
Further questions or comments? Thank you, gentlemen.
Sean, are we currently, I know our development has kind of slowed down a bit, west of 395. Are we still requiring the purple pipe go in from those developers?
Yes, we are.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And
Last
one of-
chance. Oh, everybody's talking.
The studies that have previously been conducted by VVWA regarding subregional treatment plants have only identified irrigation uses, and that, as has been pointed out, creates a great fluctuation in demand between the peak summer and the winter time. But as Councilman Hunter pointed out, and apparently there is a large subdivision looking at what has been done down in Irvine and other areas, which is actually purple piping into the homes where your use inside the home. And we don't know what those numbers are, but that would then eliminate much of that fluctuation in usage between the summer and wintertime months.
Well, has the city manager's comments sparked any other questions? Try it again. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Sergeant Mackey, you're up.
Thank you, Council. First, the PowerPoint. Okay, I'm here at Councilman Hunter's request to update the Council on what we've been doing recently with traffic safety in the city. And this all started a little over 2 years ago. Councilman Hunter and I had a conversation about traffic safety and how we were getting a lot of citizen concerns about safety in the city as they were driving, and how traffic collisions were on the increase, which we expected along with the population increase. So we sat back and we did a little bit of study and looked at statistics, and we were having some dramatic increases in injury and fatal collisions in the city. We had a record year of 14 collisions and 19 fatalities a couple of years ago, and we needed to do something. So with local funding and some additional grant funding, we set out to make some changes and affect some positive influence on traffic in the city. During the last couple of years, along with one sergeant, myself, we've added 2 motor officers to increase our fleet to 6 motors out there. And their primary function is an enforcement tool. They're out there to write traffic tickets and try to educate people through enforcement and their discussions with people to follow the law and pay attention to the traffic laws. Slow them down, stop for red lights. We added another DUI enforcement car to make it 2. Part of our fatal problem was there were alcohol involved, and we had to reduce the number of people that are out there drinking and driving. So we added that car. We added 2 deputies out there just to investigate traffic collisions, primarily injury collisions are the more serious ones, but to take the workload off of our motor officers. A couple of years ago, we were expecting them to investigate traffic collisions, but also to write traffic tickets, and they were only able to write 50 to 60 traffic tickets in a month. Today, the motor officers are writing 175 to 200 traffic citations a month on average, a huge increase. That's helped affect a change, a positive change in the city. And we added a sheriff service specialist, a non-sworn position, to bring that total to 5. And they're out there investigating our property damage only collisions, those non-injury fender benders that occur. And then we've increased the number of our mate trained officers, those deputies that go out and investigate our major fatal collisions. We now have 8 total trained officers to do that. That also takes away from our time to enforce the laws. When they're tied up on our major fatals, they're writing reports and investigating. They're not out writing tickets. So that's what we've come up with the last couple of years as far as an increase in personnel. It's not going to turn. There it goes. How do we accomplish all that? Well, we use local funding from the council, of course, to help fund some of those positions, but we also went out and actively sought some grant funding from the Office of Traffic Safety. And we'd been receiving some grant funding in the last few years from them, but we actively sought out a lot more. A couple of years ago, we were in charge of a grant from the Office of Traffic Safety for the Avoid the 25 DUI Task Force. And we've been running that a county-wide task force that funded DUI saturations, DUI checkpoints, things like that. which was a good thing for Victorville because we received a larger percentage of those funds than other cities in the county. That helped us. But we needed more than that. So we specifically took the statistics that we had for the injury and fatal collisions and the lack of enforcement ability that we had, and we asked for we received a $597,000 grant for 2 years from the Office of Traffic Safety. That funded additional officers and a large amount of overtime to do selective traffic enforcement programs. We picked our intersections, we picked our locations to go out and actively enforce based on where our collisions were occurring or where our problems were. And we've been doing that a solid 8-9 months now, and we've seen a dramatic improvement in traffic in the city. We've increased our funding or the number of DUI checkpoints. We now do a DUI checkpoint at least once a month, and we scatter them around the city. And we don't catch a lot of people drinking and driving at our checkpoints, but it creates that perception of risk that they're going to get caught when they drive by or through that checkpoint. And we're seeing 600 to 1,000 cars go through our checkpoints, and another 600 to 1,000 don't go through it but drive the opposite way. And they don't go out and drink and drive because they know we're out there. That creates that perception of risk that reduces drinking and driving and makes the street safer. The 2 motor officers we added, like I said, they are out writing more citations than ever. Our goal is not to write citations. Our goal is to just get people to comply with the law and drive more safely. With the collision investigators out there, they're able to do a lot more of that, and we're seeing a positive impact with them. Red light enforcement. I stand on street corners and call out cars that violate red lights. One of the things that Councilman Hunter and I discussed was red light cameras. And I know Sean Glade and his crew have been out trying to get that accomplished, and we're hoping by the end of the year to have the red light cameras system started in the city. And that'll free up our officers from writing red light tickets at those bad locations to doing other locations where we need to spend some time. We're doing courtroom stings now, and that's something that's new that we started. Studies have shown from the DMV that a lot of your worst drivers are drivers that don't have a driver's license or they're driving with a suspended driver's license. So we're writing a lot of citations, arresting a lot of people throughout the month for that violation. We take their cars for 30 days, we impound them, and we send them to court. They show up to court, and what we found was they would drive to court and drive away. They're ignoring the fact that they don't have a license, and they're ignoring the judge's orders. So a crew, we go into the courtroom in street clothes, and we sit there and we watch the judge order them not to drive. They drive away, and we're following them out of the courtroom. When they drive away, we have our motor officers sitting down the street, and we're arresting them again, and we're taking their car again for another 30 days. And we're having a lot of success with that because we're not finding as many people doing that now. The word's gotten out not to drive. So we think we're making an impact there too. And one of the things we're going to do next year is we're going to have a DUI trial in the high school, one of our local high schools, where we're going to bring the courtroom into the high school. We're going to have the judge, public defender, district attorney, criminalists, and deputies testifying, and we're going to have a jury in there made up of high school kids. And it'll be more of an assembly where all the kids can get exposed to what a DUI trial really is and the impact it makes on someone's life. And that's part of the prevention. We're trying to prevent these kids from drinking and driving. So that's some of the things that we're doing with these grant funds that we've received. Another thing we're doing is we're actively seeking out seatbelt grant funding to do seatbelt enforcement. And we've received over $100,000 in funding for overtime to do that enforcement during the last 4 years. This past May, we used $40,000 in overtime. We wrote well over 1,000 tickets for seatbelt enforcement violations. And we've actually improved the usage rate in the city from the low 80s to nearly 90% now. And that prevents our injuries, which has a negative impact on the traffic. And we've received $125,000 in overtime, in addition to the other overtime, to do sobriety checkpoints. And we've asked for another $100,000 just for next year to do more sobriety checkpoints, to keep getting that message out there. A couple of years ago, we created what we call a tow fund, and that's the acronym for Traffic Offender Without Wheels. And that's those people that are driving without license. We're taking their wheels away, and we're arresting them, and we're actively looking for them. Taking those bad drivers off the road makes it safer for everybody. And one of the ways we're actually funding some of that is through that tow fund. We raised our administrative fees, our reimbursement for our time involved in arresting those people to $150 per vehicle. And that funding goes right back into a budget item that we can go out and fund more traffic safety programs with. So it's going right back into the community to make it safer. It also pays for some of our tools that we use, the radar guns and some of our equipment to help with our enforcement. What's the results statistically from all this? We've had a 150% increase in the first 8 months this year versus last year in just our hazardous citations, which are our movers, the speeding, the red lights, the unsafe driving, a huge increase. And that's made a tremendous impact on people. Registration, that would be our driver's license citations, are up 27%. And we've had a reduction. We're not writing our mechanical violations as much anymore, the broken windshields, taillights, things like that, because those don't cause our accidents. It's the driving habits that cause the accidents that we're trying to correct that behavior. Overall, we've had an 89% increase in traffic citations in those first 8 months. We've written more citations so far, 10,000 citations, and we only wrote 8,000 last year in the entire 12 months. So we've far exceeded our expectations there. What's that? What type of a change has that created? We've had a 40% reduction in fatal collisions and about a 1% reduction in injury collisions. Property damage collisions, about 9% reduction and 9% overall. That's even with a 10% increase in population in this city during those 8 months that we figured. So we think we've made a pretty good impact on traffic safety. DUI arrests are up 45% with the addition of that one officer. We've scheduled him on those two officers. They work the same shift, the same nights. Instead of 7 nights a week, we focus on the 3 busiest nights for drinking in this city and driving, and that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we've made a tremendous impact there in arrests. We haven't seen a total improvement there. Our fatals that are alcohol involved are down 50%. We've only had 1 this year compared to 2 in the first 8 months last year. Injuries are about the same, just barely down. And our property damage onlys are still up. We haven't completely improved in that area. But when you adjust it for population increase, we've at least maintained, we think. There's a lot more cars out there on the road late at night, and they're still drinking, but we're making an impact. For the future, we're going to continue with this program. The grants have 1 more year left in them. We'll continue to work overtime programs and try to educate the public through enforcement. We do press releases with every program that we're out there working. And it's not to get publicity for us, it's to educate the public that we're out there and we want the roads to be safer by them complying with the law. And it seems to be working. We get a lot of feedback about that. The red light cameras will be coming online, we hope, by the end of the year. That's another aspect that's going to improve traffic safety for all of us. And we'll be reevaluating in the future and looking where else we need to go. So I hope that answered your questions about where we're at right now for traffic safety.
Mr. Hunter, again, this is your request.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. I just wanted to bring this forward because we had talked several weeks ago about I wanted to know where we were with traffic and how it was changing, and because as I drive around, it seems like just everybody's crazy. They're running red lights and they're getting traffic jams, and I see accidents all over the place. So I really wanted to know where we were, and I'm really impressed with the statistics that are happening in this city. I mean, while we're always going to have the accidents, we're always going to have those kind of things, I really think they've done an outstanding job on either maintaining or getting them down with what you see happening out on the streets. And they're putting a lot of enforcement out there. And it's a shame we have to put that much out there, but in this city we have to have it, and it's making a big impact. The red light cameras are going to help. Not just will it help accidents and to cite people for red lights, it's going to relieve their deputies to go to other areas that we really need the moving violation kind of things and speeders caught. So I think that's just going to bring those numbers down even farther. And, anything I can do or we can do to help, I think they've done a great job.
Questions or comments from other members of the council?
We just want to say thank you for a great job.
You're welcome.
I have a comment and then a question. The comment is, of course, that we're very proud of our police department, and Sergeant Mackey, you're doing an outstanding job with your traffic programs. But overall, our police department is outstanding, not just the traffic, but what they do outside of the traffic, which is in the criminal element and the gangs and all those other things that threaten our public safety. So I commend you for your traffic program, and then the department for all of the other work that they do.
We all work together to make the community safer, all the programs.
Yeah. The question is, I was going through this one of those checkpoints, and I've seen these people pulling out, turning, using, just getting out of the line. Is there anything you can do with those folks that leave the area?
People that try to avoid the checkpoint, legally they have to be allowed an escape route. We can't force them through the checkpoint, but those 6 motors are sitting down there before the checkpoint watching them, and they're picking them off one by one. If there's a violation, they're talking to them. A lot of people think it's a traffic collision that they're going through, the road's closed or something. It's a legitimate reason. They're not drunk. But we do catch those that try to avoid for that reason too.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to let you know, I don't know if anyone's told anyone here, but Victorville is thought of as the elite station in the Sheriff's Department. Everybody wants to come here and work Victorville. And the deputies that want to come here because of this city council and because of what the city does and the support they have. They just love this duty. So.
Yes, they do.
Other questions or comments? Well, I want to add to the accolades, your program in particular and the substation as well. John and I had a meeting with Sheriff Penrod a couple of weeks ago. We kind of go through this on an annual basis just to see if it fell, and told him that as far as this council was concerned, contract city forever, based upon the level of professionalism and the commitment to keeping it possibly made. So it is a good relationship, and you guys are a separate department, but you work with us as though we're all part of the same family, and that's truly appreciated. There's been times past when that wasn't necessarily always. I know there's been some letters to the editor and some criticism about the red light cameras. I want you to know I think that's a wonderful program. The quicker you can get it online, I think the better. Pressure points that I see, especially around noontime, if you're coming from the courthouse or city hall or my office, Kentwood and Palmdale Road, it's not just cars that are running the lights, but trucks. And I think truckers may feel that because they're big, people get out of the way. Always the case. Yesterday, if I would have attempted to go through the yellow light, I would have been T-boned by a school bus. So, I think there's a certain mentality, that we're out in the desert, we're out in the hinterlands, trying to get away with whatever we want to get away with. And I think your increased visibility, especially with the motorcycle officers, good thing. And glad that we're moving close to the cameras. I think, as Hunter said, I think that will have a psychological impact. Hopefully it does. But you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
When a car is actually, it kind of gets at the tail end there and blocks the can't flow. Green Tree is a good example of that. Will that camera catch that person and ticket them for blocking the intersection?
No, it won't. You have to enter the intersection after it's turned red. That's a gridlock ticket. But we're going to get those too. We'll get them.
Find a way.
John, would you give me a copy of that presentation?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it is a pleasure to work in Victorville.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 45 minutes of informal presentations. Now we're going to start the council meeting, and the redevelopment agency meeting, and the water board meeting, the library meeting, rail meeting, and airport meeting. The first item on all of those agendas, item 1, is public comment. Public comment is that opportunity afforded by state law for you to address the council or any of these other agencies that we govern, and you can share with us your thoughts or your concerns on any subject that's within our area of responsibility and jurisdiction. Because public comment is your opportunity to spontaneously, if you will, tell us something. Obviously, there's no way that we can be prepared to deal with your questions or your concerns. So the general policy of the council is that we do not respond initially, at least in this meeting, to public comment. We ask that you fill out these white cards that are available in the back of the room, and that you pass the cards to the city clerk, who will in turn pass them to me. The reason we ask you to do that is so that we'll have your name and ability to communicate with you should whatever you share with us require that we reschedule you for another meeting, or that we provide you with information, or that we seek more information from you in order to properly deal with your public comment item. We'll only have public comment for these 3 cards. That's all that's been turned in. The public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per card, and I'll take the cards in the order with which they were given to me. The first public comment card is from Councilman Mike Rothschild.
Supposed to be last. I wanted to use this moment because it's in the news. I'm a native Californian. I've lived here most of my life, in and out and everything else. And quite frankly, cities and city government is probably more of an indicative reflection of what a state is than a lot of times the political process and the votes that go on in the states. And in the last couple of days, we've had what I think is a very negative message coming out of 2 of our largest cities that I'm embarrassed about. And I've lived in both of those cities, San Francisco, which denied an opportunity for the U.S. Marines to film a little bit in their streets one day. And just yesterday, when the troops came back from Iraq and Oakland, they were denied access to the terminal and were shunted off to a hinterland place. I can assure you that that kind of conduct would never happen in this city, and probably most of the cities in this state. But those 2 of our largest cities out there, sending a message like that is the attitude of this state of California, is nowhere near the truth of the matter. And I'm embarrassed to say so, and I wanted to put it on the record that I'm sure that there's a lot of governments out there that are embarrassed on behalf of all of us for those 2 cities and their conduct to the military people. And that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to put on the record that that's a shameful act. It would never happen in this part of the country, the state.
Next card up is Dorothy Miller.
Dorothy Miller, Demeron Road. I have a couple questions. One of them is Topaz signal. We still don't have a signal on Topaz. Now if they say another 4 months. Now this has been going on, 4 years? And we haven't got the post to hold the lights up on. Now that should have been planned way back when we started in with the signals. But nothing's being done. Now they say another 4 months. Will it be another 4 months or another 4 years? I'm really concerned about this. Then another thing that really kind of bothers me, we bring things up that don't get followed through with. And Topaz is one. The other was, I can't even think of it right now. But the other thing that bothers me is the Riverwalk. We're back to the Riverwalk. We can pay for Riverwalks. We can't pay for signals. We can't pay to get things done that we really need to have done. Nisqually Bridge, how long has that been going on? Now, oh, we forgot to get some information we have to get now. We need that bridge. The people in the city needs things done. And this council don't actually look like they're really working for the people. It's the people that is really paying for this thing. And it's not getting done. And it really bothers me. Thank you.
Next card, Norm Miller.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Norman Miller, Golden Triangle Ad Hoc Committee. And one of the things I want to bring up is, along with the signal at Bear Valley and Topaz, I was looking at the intersection diagram that's proposed for there. And we've been having a lot of accidents there, and my contention is one of the problems is that there's a block wall on the northeast corner of that intersection that's blocking the view. When I'm looking at the plans for the intersection, I noticed that the crosswalk going across Topaz on the north side of Bear Valley Road is on an angle. And that means that a car that comes up to the intersection to turn right to go onto Bear Valley Road, possibly on a red light, will not have the opportunity to see around that wall to see traffic coming at probably 50 to 60 miles an hour. So I wish the engineering department or whoever handles that could take a little closer look at that, because it looks a little scary to me. Another item is we need to do something about the traffic tuner. I think you're doing a big disservice to the citizens of Victorville and Victor Valley by not letting them know what's happening in the city of Victorville as far as the traffic's concerned. There's a lot of things that come up as far as problems or plans or whatever, and I think the people have a right to know this. And the last item, and I know the policy is you don't usually reply in the public comment because you haven't had a chance to look at anything, but I would like to see if we can get a reply on the paramedic issue, which was supposed to have been brought up tonight's meeting, and it's not here. I don't think that's very good. Thank you.
Those are all the cards I have. Was there anyone else who had anticipated addressing the council under public comment? If not, I will close the public comment for all of the various agendas that I previously enumerated. I would indicate that we do have some upcoming public hearing items, and the same rule applies if you're going to address the council during one of the public comment items. Please fill out a card and pass it to city clerk so that we'll be able to respond accordingly. With that, we will go to the library. We have, as far as I know, concluded everything on the library, but this is Mr. Hunter's item. Mr. Hunter, is there anything else you want to deal with in terms of the library?
Mr. Mayor, there's no revisions, so I would move we adjourn the meeting.
Southern California Logistics Rail Authority. There are no revisions to this that I'm aware of, so unless there is somebody to tell me differently, the Rail Authority meeting will be concluded. Airport Authority has item 3, which is a consent calendar item. The items have been predetermined to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be approved with one motion unless there's a request for a removal from the consent calendar.
Move for approval.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. Presentation, number 4 is a presentation of a request to approve additional appropriation of $20,000 for work required by the FAA Safety Action Team, plus contingencies for the Runway Safety Action Plan. Council has the backup material for that. Questions or comments? Not, a motion would be in order. Move approval.
Second.
Favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Are we supposed to be voting on the?
Yes.
I think we're supposed to be voting on the computer.
Oh, I forgot. You got a computer.
She's doing it for us, but,
Well, did we vote on that or not?
well, I just clicked, so.
I have council members Cabrera, okay, there we go. Councilmember Almond?
Okay.
Got ahead of me.
Redevelopment Agency, item 3, consent calendar. Again, it's been predetermined to be routine and non-controversial. The items will be adopted with one motion unless there's a request for removal.
Chairman Caldwell, there is an addendum to the redevelopment agency agenda, and it's to, in addition to the consent calendar, an advertising agreement with Bazoff Development.
Well, you're right. That's the item that was on my desk this morning.
That's correct.
Well, do we have to make a formal motion to add this, or is it done automatically?
It was done as an addendum. I believe it was appropriately noticed, so it's fine.
Okay, then we do have a revision to item 3, which is the consent calendar. But it, again, has been predetermined to be routine, non-controversial, be adopted with one motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. May we vote?
I'm sorry, I don't have a motion in a second. If you can, Okay, thank you.
Now can we vote?
Now you can vote.
Item 4, proposed resolution R07010, if adopted, would approve the marketing program by and between the Victorville Redevelopment Agency and the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. Questions or comments from the Redevelopment Agency? Not, a motion would be in order. Or second? May we vote?
Missing Mayor Caldwell and Councilmember Cabrales.
You know, if I push any harder, I'm going to break my finger. Right.
You have to wait until it gives the cue that vote's in progress. Or else you're ahead of me.
Well, I like the sound of that. Agenda item 5, amendment number 1 to the contract for professional services with Epic Land Solution for the Old Town redevelopment project area, an additional appropriation of $250,000. Questions or comments? Not, a motion would be in order. For approval.
Second.
Seconded. May we vote?
Mayor Caldwell.
I
Let's use
I
your
think this
mouth
thing
like
needs to be
everybody else.
worked on.
Doesn't like your finger.
Apparently. Item 6, proposed resolution R07012. If adopted, there would be a finding that the use of low and moderate income housing funds from the Victorville Redevelopment Agency project areas for planning and general administrative costs is necessary for the purpose of improving and preserving the community supply of low and moderate income housing. Questions or comments from members of the council? Not, a motion would be in order.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Unanimous. Item 7, request to approve amendment number 4 to the disposition and development agreement with Valley High Toyota. Quinn, questions or comments? Not, a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. May we vote? Unless there's any add-on items, that would conclude the redevelopment agency.
Nothing to add.
Water District, we've already had the presentation and the public comment. Item 2 is revisions to the agenda. I'm not aware of any.
There are none.
And then we go to, we have item 3, which is again a consent calendar item. Motion?
Second.
Vote. Now go to the City Council agenda. Again, item 1 is completed. We do have a revision that asks that item 14, which is the public hearing item on the Uniform Building Code, that it be removed. That item 6, which is the public hearing opposition to general plan, this is an additional piece of information that will become a part of the record. Are there any other revisions or changes to the council agenda?
That would be item number 4 on public hearings rather than 14 that gets removed.
Which one gets removed?
Public hearing item number 4, the ordinance amending the Uniform Building Code.
What did I say?
14.
Stand corrected. So we're going to remove 4. We're going to have additional information on 6. And we're adding the, oh, that's it. Those are the only ones. Okay. Item number 3 is a public hearing, proposed resolution 07324, which if adopted would order the formation of the Nisqually Road Sidewalk Assessment District Number 1 under the Improvement Act of 1911. Before we open the public hearing, are there any questions or comments from members of the council? If not, I'll declare open the public hearing on proposed resolution 07324. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard in opposition to the adoption of resolution 07324, which will set in motion the formation of the Nisqually Road Sidewalk Assessment District. Hearing no one wishing to speak in opposition, is there anyone wishing to speak in support or in favor of the proposed resolution? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none, a motion would be in order.
Mayor Caldwell, this is an election on the formation of the Nisqually Road Sidewalk Assessment. There are ballots that need to be counted once the public hearing has been closed. The staff is getting ready to count the ballots right now, so if we could revisit this item at the end of the agenda to announce the vote.
Okay, the public hearing has been closed. We will push item 3 to the end of the agenda. Item 4, proposed ordinance number 2210, which if adopted would deal with the building code, but that one has been, there's been a request to remove it. Is it removed indefinitely, or is it removed to a date certain for another meeting?
It has already been rescheduled for a new public hearing on October 16th.
Okay. Item 5, as a public hearing. Actually, it's 3 public hearings dealing with the same thing. Items 5A, B, and C are public hearings dealing with proposed resolution 07320, proposed ordinance 2211, and the accompanying negative declaration. These items are from Ibrahim D. Paulson, if I said it correctly, and it deals with a amendment to the land use element of the general plan and affected elements to redesignate property from very low density residential to commercial. We'll have a transitional zone, 1/2 acre minimum building site, and C2T general commercial transitional to C2 general commercial. I'm going to open all 3 public hearings concurrently, and I'll invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution, the proposed ordinance, and or the negative declaration. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition. Hearing no opposition, I'll invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in support of the resolution, the ordinance, and or the notice of negative declaration. Hearing no testimony, I'll close the public hearing. Council, first as to resolution 07320.
Second.
Seconded, may we vote? Item B is proposed ordinance 2211.
An ordinance of the City of Victorville approving zone change PLN 07-0067 to reclassify property from R1T B1/2 single-family residential transitional 1/2 acre minimum building site and C2T general commercial transitional to C2 general commercial Abraham Del Pasand.
Second.
May we vote? Unanimous as to all 3. Item 6, again, is 3 public hearings, 6A, B, and C. Proposed resolution 07321, proposed ordinance 2212, and the accompanying notice of negative declaration. These are items brought by the Victorville Redevelopment Agency. Again, they will redesignate portions of property from high-density residential to commercial, and it would approve a zone change, PLN 07-00089, to reclassify a portion of property from R3 high-density residential to C2 general commercial. Questions or comments from members of the council before we open the public hearing on items 6A, B, and C? Hearing none, I'll declare the public hearings open. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard in opposition to the adoption of the proposed resolution and or the ordinance and or the negative declaration that deals with these items. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience who feels that they wish to speak in support of or in favor of the proposed resolution or ordinance or negative declaration? Hearing no testimony, I'll close all 3 public hearings. Council, a motion and second would be in order.
Move for approval on the second.
Second.
Councilman Cabrales, thank you.
Unanimous. Ordinance.
Ordinance of the City of Victorville approving zone change PLN 07-00089 to reclassify a portion of property from R3 High Density Residential to C2 General Commercial Victorville Redevelopment Agency.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance number 2212 with the negative declaration.
Second.
Seconded, may we vote? Unanimous. Item 7, again, is 3 public hearings grouped together. Items A, B, and C. Proposed Resolution 07323, proposed ordinance 2213, and the accompanying negative declaration. This deals with the General Plan Amendment, PLN 07-00090, which would redesignate portions of property from light industrial to commercial. The applicant is Covington Capital. Questions or comments from the council before we open the public hearings? If not, I'll open all 3 public hearings together. I'll invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed Resolution 07323 and/or the proposed Ordinance 2213 and the accompanying negative declaration with the minimus finding. Anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition? Hearing no opposition, I'll invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard in favor or in support of the proposed resolution, ordinance, and/or notice of negative declaration. Hearing no testimony, I'll close the 3 public hearings and invite a motion and a second.
Resolution.
Second.
And as to the ordinance?
For introduction of ordinance
Well,
number...
we have to have it read.
Ordinance of the City of Victorville approving zone change PLN 07-0090 to reclassify a portion of property from M1 Light Industrial to C2 General Commercial Covington Capital.
Introduction.
Second.
Does that include the negative declaration?
Declaration.
Moved and seconded, may we vote? The ordinance is introduced. That concludes the public hearing items. Item 8 is a consent calendar with 1 addendum. These items have been predetermined to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be acted on with 1 motion unless there's a request for an item to be removed from the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, may we vote?
Gabrielis?
Agenda item 9 is a proposed resolution 07319, which if adopted would order the vacation and abandonment of landscape easements within the westerly portion of parcel 1 of parcel map number 10344. Questions, comments from the council?
Second.
Seconded, may we vote? Item 10 is a 2-part. It's a resolution, proposed resolution 07215, 07322, and 07214. These items deal with the formation of a proposed assessment district, number 0701 for Cuenga Road, also making designations and appointments to fulfill responsibilities and duties in connection with the proposed assessment district, and approving the fee deposit and reimbursement agreements for the proposed assessment districts. Questions or comments from members of the council? Not, 1 motion for all 3 resolutions would be in order. Seconded, may we vote? Agenda item 11, agenda item 11 is a claim from Southern California Edison Company. The claim number is 0711. I move that the claim from the Edison Company be denied and that the matter referred to the appropriate staff for handling. Agenda item 12 is reports from council. Gabrielis?
A couple of things. First, is in regards to what Mike just mentioned about San Francisco and Oakland. In Victorville, it's different. In Victorville, we're going to honor not only our veterans on November the 11th, but our members of the armed forces who are serving in combat on October the 11th. We have a ceremony here in front of City Hall We're going to have banners on the street signs, the light poles, honoring those members of the armed forces who are serving our country. And so I would invite everyone to be here for that ceremony. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning, right here in front of City Hall. And I mentioned again that on November the 11th, Old Town Victorville on C Street, we have a veterans ceremony. This weekend, we're celebrating diversity. We have Spice of Life this Saturday in Old Town from 10 to 6. Please come down and visit Old Town and enjoy the different cultures that are represented there, and really they are representative of the people that live in the city of Victorville.
Solomon?
I just want to say, that's also the day the firefighters have their pancake breakfast. So you go have breakfast, and then you go down to Old Town and enjoy the rest of the food.
Rothschild. A couple things. It has been suggested that we set aside some time for the council to work on goal setting, and Hunter's request, and I've asked our staff to poll the council to see if we can come up with a date. I've suggested we try to start around 4 or 5 on an off Tuesday. Mr. Hunter thinks it may take longer than that, so if we could start at 4 and maybe go till 8, and if we are not done, then maybe continue it for 2 weeks to the next non-scheduled council meeting in order to keep it going. And so you'll be polled about your availability, and the question I would pose to the council is whether or not they want to try to go through the goal-setting exercise on their own, or whether we should have staff see if they can find a facilitator, somebody trained and skilled in working with people in a goal-setting mode, whether you want to go it alone or have some professional help. I ask for direction from the council.
My opinion on this one, I'd like to try it on our own for the first time. And if that doesn't work well, maybe next time, which I think we should do it every year before the department heads go on their retreat.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
I would agree. I think this time I would like every council member, and you're the mayor obviously, but come prepared with your thoughts in hand of what you would really like to see the city go to and through and all that, and try it on our own. Then if we can't, if it doesn't work out that way, then we'll get somebody to help us out. So.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't have a problem with going along the first time, but I do think that eventually we need to get a facilitator, because things kind of work out smoothly when you have somebody there directing you and putting your thoughts on the wall and so on, so we can all support everything that we.
Rothschild?
Facilitator moves it along a bit. Television on one idea.
Well, I guess the consensus is to go it alone and wing it the first time, and we'll see how it goes. The only other thing I wanted to mention for those members of the council who were not able to go to the Costco opening, first last night and again this morning, I want to share with you that the girl with the clicker told me this morning that as of about 7:30 when I left, she'd clicked in not less than 2,900 people for the event last night. And this morning, the ribbon cutting was to occur at 7:45. I was asked to be there at 7:15. I was, and Rothschild was. And so promptly at 7:45, the ribbon was stretched where the door is. They opened the door so we could cut the ribbon and say a few words. And I thought I was at some massive event. You cannot believe the number of people. It was like a bunch of horses geared up to come out of the gate at the sound of the bell.
Out of the way.
I mean, the place, I stood there for more than 15 minutes because I was afraid I was going to get trampled. The people were lined up with carts, and for 15 minutes and longer, They just kept coming in. Garner Morris was there. Am I telling the truth, Garner? It was incredible, the number of people that came in there. When I finally left, they were still coming into that store. I made one quick tour to see whether they were just all looky-loos, and you should have seen the stuff that they were heaping into the carts. This had to be a banner day for sales tax in the city of Victorville. I'm telling you, it was huge. It is the largest store that Costco has built. It's the largest store in California. Somebody may come up and tie us, but right now they have no prototype stores bigger than the Victorville store. So that is a significant move, and I just want to say, I want to compliment Keith Metzler, who, as the council will recall, he kind of suggested to the council that there were some options to use of that property, and I think the lion's share of the credit has to go to Keith Metzler and his staff for having the vision to see what could be done and for bringing the council along for what is a very, very successful project. Doff my imaginary hat to you, Keith. With that, we're going to go into closed session for the items that are enumerated on the agenda, items 13, 14, and 15. They set forth what we're going to be discussing. Unless there are any items to be added to the closed session.
Mayor Caldwell, I do have the results of the ballot
yes, we will go
count
back
on
to,
Nisqually.
We'll go back to the Nisqually sidewalk assessment.
The number of ballots that were mailed out were 116. We received 41 ballots back. The total number of yes votes were 29, and the total number of no votes were 12. So the assessment passes.
Assessment passes. Okay.
And there is a resolution that goes along with this that needs to be adopted that orders the formation of the assessment district.
Resolution adoption has been moved by Mr. Hunter.
Second.
Been seconded by Ms. Allman. May we vote? Okay, that's done. We will go into closed session. Again, it's not anticipated that there will be any reportable actions after the closed session, but we cannot guarantee that. If you wish to wait and see, you're welcome. If you want